Officer, do you believe it is, to your knowledge, is there anything in Florida law that gives you a superior right to carry a firearm over a citizen who is lawfully carrying a firearm in accordance with the laws of the state of Florida?
Objection.
You can
No.
answer. Do you believe that your safety or officer safety is more important than the safety of lawfully armed individuals in the state of Florida?
No.
Did you take any actions on June 24th, 2018 that were not for the purpose of carrying out your duties as a Miami Beach police officer?
No.
I'm going to narrow it down a little bit. During the incident on the pier where you were interacting with these individuals that were fishing on the pier, did you take any actions that were not in the course and scope of your duties as a Miami Beach police officer?
I don't believe so. No.
Did you take any actions that were not in accordance with the policies and procedures of the Miami Beach Police Department during that time period?
No.
You have not been advised that you by any person in your command staff that you violated any policies or procedures of the Miami Beach Police Department in how you handled your conduct during the incident on the pier?
No.
No, you have not been advised of any violations of policy or procedure.
That's correct.
Is it your understanding that the pier was closed down after the individuals were removed from the pier?
Yes.
Do you know why the pier was closed down?
No.
Are you aware, as you sit here today, of any legal reason why the pier had to be closed?
No.
Are you aware of any public safety concern that existed? I'm back up. You would not have returned these weapons, or excuse me, you would not have returned these firearms to these individuals if you believed there was a public safety hazard in returning those firearms, right?
Objection in the form of the question.
Probably not.
You would assume that Lieutenant Garcia would not order the return of firearms to these individuals if there was an ongoing public safety concern, correct?
Objection in the form.
Correct.
So would you agree that at the time the firearms were returned to the individuals, there was no further public safety concern in those individuals being armed?
Yes.
Question.
Was there a continuing officer safety issue in those firearms being returned at that time?
Can you repeat the question or rephrase the question, please?
Yes, sir. In your opinion, was there any officer safety concern in returning these firearms to the individuals at the time they were returned?
No.
At the time the firearms were returned, did you have any concern personally for your safety as a police officer?
No.
Would you have had a safety concern as a police officer if the rounds had been reloaded into the magazines prior to placing the firearms in the trunk?
Yes.
Why?
The particular individual that I handed the firearm back to was particularly irate throughout the course of the investigation. And as a matter of course, to give him back a loaded magazine that could quickly be reloaded into a firearm certainly would cause me pause.
Did you have, at the time that you put the firearm in his trunk, did you have any legal basis to continue to possess the firearm and keep it from him?
In the form.
I don't understand the question.
Did you have any legal basis, any basis on which you believed you were legally allowed to continue to keep his firearm at the time you placed it in his trunk?
No,
And in fact, if he had immediately pulled it out of his trunk, reloaded it, and put it back on his hip, would you have had any legal basis to stop him from doing so?
no,
There was not even even for officer safety, you could not have retaken possession of that firearm unless he took some aggressive act towards you, correct?
correct,
Or towards some other person,
correct,
or violated some Florida law.
correct.
Was any, I think I described that gentleman, Mr. Taylor, as mouthy earlier. Was any other individual on the pier that day mouthy like Mr. Taylor was?
Not exactly like him.
Did every other person on the pier that day amongst the fishermen remain calm?
Yes,
Did any person, whether Mr. Taylor or any other fisherman on the pier that day, take any aggressive action towards you, officer?
no,
Did they take any aggressive action towards the park ranger, to your knowledge?
not to my knowledge.
Did they take any aggressive action towards any of the police officers on the pier that day?
Not to my knowledge.
Nobody reported such aggressive actions to you.
No,
Did you hear any individuals specific, other than Mr. Taylor, object to not getting their firearms back the way they wanted them back?
yes,
Do you remember who that was?
I believe that you informed me his name is Mr. Weiss, possibly the one who came in at the end without not with the group but separately.
All right. You heard him tell Lieutenant Garcia that he wanted his firearm back right there on the pier, right?
Yes,
All right. Are you aware of any legal reason why his firearm could not be returned to him right there on the pier?
not specifically.
Arm.
So the sole basis, to your knowledge, for not returning his firearm to him right there, loaded or unloaded, was for officer safety. You can
Yes,
Officers, your understanding, based on the policy and procedures of the Miami Beach Police Department, that you may approach and detain any individual who you suspect of being armed.
Can you repeat that question,
Um,
court reporter?
Is it your understanding, based on the policy and procedures of the Miami Beach Police Department as you have been trained, that you may approach and detain any individual who you know or suspect is armed with a firearm?
Object to the form of the question.
You may answer.
Duo.
Pardon me?
Madam Court Reporter, will you read the question back, please?
No problem. A question, is it your understanding based on the policy and procedure of the Miami Beach Police Department as you have been trained that you may approach and detain any individual who you know or suspect is armed with a firearm?
Yes, that is my understanding.
And is that also your understanding of the laws of the state of Florida?
Yes.
Y'all, can we take about a 15-minute break and I will try and wrap this up?
Why do we need 15 minutes?
Because I need 15 minutes to review some notes and to check on an issue. Can we take a 15-minute break, please?
Can you try to expedite?
I will try to expedite it, Mr. Switkus, but I will be back within 15 minutes. I may be quicker.
Okay.